It is 4 o'clock on the dot. Thank you for joining the Try This 2018 mini grant webinar. Our goal in the next 30 minutes or so is to make sure you get the information to help you get the money you need to make your community healthier and more prosperous. So we're so glad you're here. Please bear with us. We'll take a couple minutes and wait for other people to get on the phone, get on the webinar, and then we'll begin. But thanks everyone for joining us. Again, I'm going to do most of this because there's so many people on the webinar. I'm going to try to go through this as best I can, and we will take questions at the end. I think is the main way we're going to do this. So we've got 27 of you online right now. It's still just 4 o'clock. So we're going to give people another minute or two to hop on, and then we'll get started. Again, thanks so much for being here and for all that you're already doing in your communities. And we're going to have a great session. I want to especially welcome everyone who's never been to a Try This conference. We're really glad you guys are on, and we will be glad to see you in June at the actual Try This conference with you and your team members to make sure you've got the support to get the mini grants you need to make your communities that much brighter. Thanks again for joining us. If you're just hopping on, we've got 29 people already on the webinar, which is great. We're expecting some more. So we give people another minute or two, probably start right around 4:02, 4:03. We'll go through the whole presentation as best we can, and we'll do questions mostly at the end. Bear with us because we've got so many people on the line. I'm going to try to get through this swiftly, hopefully answer a bunch of your questions with the webinar, and then open it up for questions that remain at the end. My name is Stephen Smith, by the way. I'm one of the co-founders of Try This, and excited to do this webinar. Our 5th year of mini grants coming up. So thanks everyone for joining us, and we will get started right here in about 1 more minute. We've got 29 people on the line, and we will get started here in just a moment.
Trying to see it.
I'm going to ask you guys this, and you may or may not be able to respond, but as best you can, maybe try chatting. I want to make sure that you can both, ideally, both see me and see the PowerPoint presentation. So if someone can respond and let me know if you can see me and hear me and the PowerPoint presentation, that would be great. Oh, wonderful. Look at you guys. All right. I asked a question and you answered. So we are, looks like people can see and hear. So we're off to the races. All right. It's 4:03. We've got 30 of you on board for this. Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Try This 2018 mini grants session. Here's what we're going to cover. The mini grants, tips, deadlines. We'll do some Q&A, and we'll do some reminders about the Try This conference. Diving right in, the mini grants are valued between $500 and $3,000. If you're looking for more than $3,000, you're in the wrong place. The max we give is $3,000. The average mini grant is about $1,500 or $1,600 each year. We have about $80,000 to give away. Hopefully we'll raise even more before the conference. There are 7 basic components to your mini grants. You're going to need SMART objectives. We'll talk more about what these are. A team and budget description. So tell us who's on your team, what they're doing, but also tell us how you're going to spend the money. A project description, 2 letters of commitment. We'll talk more about that later. The Try This checklist, which is a sort of an assessment tool to show us you've thought through what would be the best projects for your community. Set a good example contract that shows us that you're finding ways to make your community healthier in addition to your mini grant. And then a long-term planning document. One of the things to remember with Try This mini grants, this is important, is that we do not fund one-time projects or one-time events. We only fund sustainable projects, and we'll only fund you for the startup money. So if you're here looking for like a health fair or something like that, generally we have not funded things like health fairs or one-day events, but we are happy to work with you and talk about how you can take that one-time event and turn it into something more sustainable. These are due July 9th by 9 a.m. totally completed. Whatever you have in by 9 a.m. on July 9th is what we're going to review and nothing more. All right, I'm going to keep zooming through this. We have plenty of time for questions. Here's the requirements. So speaking of what it takes, you need to complete all the components of the application. You need to have a team that includes at least 3 partners or organizations who attend the conference. There's always communication, there's always confusion about this, so I want to be really clear. So if you're coming as part of your school to the Try This conference, you need at least 2 other partners who are also at the Try This conference, who are on your team willing to help you out. So maybe that means you're also bringing someone from your local FRN, or maybe it's a local business person who's going to come to the conference with you. And that's to make sure that you've got a full team and we're not just relying on one person. That one of the main purposes of Try This is to build leadership and collaboration at the local level, so you can do not just one project one time, but you can build a real local movement. So that's why we do that. Let's say you've only got 2 partners who can come to the conference, then come on to the conference and pick up a 3rd partner. Find someone from Healthy Kids or from another organization, Keys for Healthy Kids or WVU Extension at the conference, and add them to your team. But you have to have had at least 3 partners who were there at the conference. You need a 501c3 organization, a community group, religious institution, hospital to receive the funds. You need to commit to a mid-year report and a final report. These are only about 2 pages long. We're not interested in papering you to death, but there are reports that you need to file to us and that we file to our funders, and that the grant will be completed by August 2019. That you will have completed your project, the first year of your project, by August of 2019, and that we want to see matching funds and in-kind donations. So a project that says, hey, we want $3,000 and we're going to spend all that $3,000 on everything we do, if you're not showing us that you're getting something donated as well, or you're having people contribute their own funds or their own time to the project, that's going to hurt your application. Okay, what could this look like? I'm not going to read this list. You guys can read it for yourselves, but this is a list of all the different kinds of projects that we've seen: trail development, agriculture jobs, vermiculture, farmers markets, healthy community collaborations, shared use agreements in schools, gardening projects, riverfront development. If it's helping people eat better or move more, there's a good chance it will fit with our parameters. And we love seeing creative projects that we've never seen before too. So I'm going to show you some pictures of what this looks like. This is a walking club in Fayette County. This was a project in Matewan that was a multifaceted project to get people biking more. We've seen lots of youth gardens. If you're going to do a youth garden, we'd love to see it connected to a school or a child care center so that you've got kids who can tend to it. This was an outdoor adventure club in a school to get low-income kids and kids who wouldn't have an opportunity to go outdoors or do things like whitewater rafting. This is a playground project. You can see that there's lots of volunteers on this project who are pitching in. You know, that counts as matching funds. This is the Wyoming County SAD Youth Group. This is a youth leadership program that was also doing healthy stuff. Some more pictures from SAD. This was a classroom participation project. This is a natural playground. This is a project at a farmer's market in Bridgeport where they were getting kids acquainted with fruits and vegetables. This is a project in Berkeley County where they want to do all kinds of projects. So they built a team called Berkeley County It's Up to Us to do ongoing healthy community projects. We've seen a lot of projects related to faith communities, high tunnel gardens, you name it. I've noticed that there's a couple more questions. Let me see if I can pull these up. Okay. Yep. I know some people are seeing just either me or seeing me and the slides. I'm going to do best I can to toggle in between. Here's the tips. This is for people, if you're on this mini grant webinar, this is the main reason we hope you're here, is to get some tips so that you can put together a great application. Tip number 1, fall in love. This is really important, that we want you to come up with a project that really moves you. If it moves you and you're passionate about it, you'll find other people who are passionate about it as well. Number 2, build a big, strong team. We hear people will ask questions like, so I only need 3 people on my team, right? And we'll say, yeah, you only need 3 people on your team, but you probably want to get more than 3 because what you're trying to do is build a team that's so big and so strong that even when it's the middle of winter and everybody's doing something else and nobody remembers to try this conference and people aren't checking their emails, that you've got enough people to still pull through and do this. So I know that when we're going over the applications, one of the things we always look for is, you know, not just do they have the bare minimum of 3 members, do they have 5 members, 7 members to their team, and not just people on your team, but are those team members really making a contribution to the team? Tip number 3, steal. You can go to trythiswv.com to see a bunch of ideas. You do not need to reinvent the wheel. You do not get any bonus points for reinventing the wheel. If someone's done it before, learn from it. Cheat. So we will have a scoring sheet available to you in May that you can actually look at the scoring sheet that we use to grade the projects and submit your application to fit just to that. Tip number 5, find a captive audience. This is another one of the biggest mistakes that we see people make on their mini grants, is that they put together a brilliant program, but they haven't taken the time to figure out who's actually going to enjoy it. So rather than coming up with a great project, think of what's your great project on the one hand, but also how are you going to make sure people actually use it. So maybe it means partnering with a food bank or a church or a few churches or a school. Think about where people already are and then make sure you're partnering with them on your project. Tip number 6, and this is the biggest one, we're going to say it a bunch of times, is please get in touch with us. This is not in some ways a normal foundation or grant process. We're in it with you. We want you to succeed. We want to give you all the information you need. And the sooner you call us, you can call me tomorrow, email us tomorrow, the next day, or leading up to the conference or after the conference. But if you want to do a project, the best way to make sure you get funded is to reach out to us so we can talk it through with you, because chances are we've seen or heard it before. Okay, what we're looking for, we've gone over this a little bit, but a big, strong, diverse, and committed team, clear, smart objectives. We'll talk about those in a second. Again, it's got to be sustainable. You want to give us the checklist, which is like an assessment tool, and of course a clear budget. This is a really big deal. This is the first year, thanks to our Try This Deputy Director, Kayla Hinckley, who many of you know, that we're able to offer you guys the opportunity to do your application online. And this is now, we've moved it over from a paper application to an online application, which is going to make life a whole lot easier for you guys and a whole lot easier for our grant reviewers. I'm going to take a moment to show you generally what it looks like. We're not going to go through the entire application. but I want you to see what it looks like. So give me one moment. We've got it up here. It's really beautiful too. That's the other reason why I want you guys to see it. So, drum roll, please. It's going to be through SurveyMonkey, and the application will be available on the website, starting very soon. We'll also send an email to everyone who's registered for the conference as soon as the mini grant application is totally live. I'm having a little bit of trouble. My computer is not agreeing with me, as you guys can see, but hopefully we'll be able to pull it up here in a second. If any of you have used SurveyMonkey recently, you'll recognize the format. I think it's pulling up now. As we're waiting for that to pull up, the other big thing we want to remind you of, and I'll try to do this at the end as well, there are 37 of you on this webinar, which is fantastic. I know some people will watch this later. Please make sure you are registered for the conference. Every year we have people wait to the last minute to register for the conference, and we have limited spots, and we have limited scholarships, and the price goes up the longer you wait. So please make sure that you are registering for the conference at trythiswv.com/conference as soon as humanly possible. Go do it right now after this call, because the last thing we want to have happen is that somebody misses out on a mini grant opportunity because they forgot to register and all the slots are gone. I'm having a little bit of trouble with the mini grant application, so the online application. So we're going to skip that for now. We'll give it another shot at the end of the webinar to see if we can get it live. So let's go back to the PowerPoint and then get your questions ready, and we'll try to answer those quickly. All right, here we go. Saw our pictures. We've got a couple more things that we want to do. Oh, cool. We figured out a way to show you this thing. So, dun, da, da, da.
It's going to get really Inception-like, so we're going to have a screen in front of a screen, so I don't know if this is going to work with the glare.
Hey, everybody, that's Kayla. Okay, so, yeah, it's working a little bit. So you can see it's a pretty simple online survey. It allows you to go through each question individually, which is great. The questions light up as you go through. It's a really nice design, and it's totally user-friendly. One of the things that we'll encourage folks to do is make sure you get your answers together beforehand. Going back to the online, I know some people will ask this. So almost everything on the application is online. The project description, the set a good example, the checklist, basic info, team description. There are two things that you're going to need to attach online, which is very clear how to do it. You'll see it on the SurveyMonkey. You'll need to attach your 2+ letters of commitment, and you'll need to attach the budget. So those will just be like normal. You need to fill those out and attach them online. Okay, tip number 7 is use SMART objectives: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Basically, you need to tell us what you're going to do. It sounds really simple, but you'll find that even in big, huge federal grants, this is something that people need to work on and be reminded of, because it's really the main difference we find between excellent applications and applications that we don't end up funding is how clear are they about what it is they're going to do. So when you're putting your goals together, your objectives, here's some examples. So just move this out of the way. So instead of saying, we want to do some community gardens and a hot dog sale in our community, you're going to say, we will build 5 community gardens, 20 raised beds each, which will provide vegetables to 100 families at our food bank weekly and get physical activity to 40 youth volunteers by June of 2017. It's specific, it's measurable. That means there's a number in it. If there's not a number in the goal on your application, add one. It's specific, it's measurable, it's attainable. You can imagine this happening. It's relevant, meaning it's about healthy food and physical activity, and it's time bound. That just means it has a deadline, in this case, June of 2017. There's another example here below, which I won't read out for you, but which you can read on your own. All right, we're almost done. Look forward to seeing more of your guys' questions here in a second, so get ready to fire those off. As we mentioned, the very best thing you can do to make sure that you get funded and you get to do this great project in your community is to contact us. You've got contact information for our Deputy Director, Kayla. You've got contact information for me as a Try This founder who's been through this before, and you've got contact information for Kathy Brunty, our Try This Director. Kate Long, who many of you know and love, is on sabbatical, so don't reach out to her. She won't get back to you, but you can reach out to any of us, and any one of the three of us would love to talk to you about your project and provide whatever advice we can to make it as strong as possible of an application. Special thanks to our funders, Benedum, the Bureau for Public Health at West Virginia DHHR, Unicare Anthem, the McDonough Foundation, Palatine Foundation, America Friends Service Committee, Greater Kanawha Valley Foundation, the West Virginia Development Office, and more to come. Like I said, we're hoping to get even more applications, even more dollars in. Also, big shout out to the Appalachian Regional Commission and the West WVU Health Sciences Center, both of which have helped fund our second stage grants, which we'll talk about in a moment. Absolutely, the most important thing you can do right now if you're on this webinar is to register for the conference. Make sure you've got a spot. And then the second best thing you can do right now is to register the other members of your team. This, when it comes down to it, is one of the things that makes Try This different, is that we don't fund individuals. We don't even fund organizations. We fund collaborations. We fund teams, because we're trying to build a culture of health throughout our communities. And that means not just one project or one leader or one organization. It means a real collaboration. And so it's an unusual thing, but we think it's what makes us unique and what makes the work you guys do so wonderful with Try This. So now is the time to make sure not just you, but your other team members are registered as well. If you want some inspiration and you aren't on our Facebook group yet, I don't know what you're doing, but go to facebook.com/group/trythiswv, or just search Try This West Virginia in your Facebook feed, and you'll get daily content connecting you to other people who are in this movement to make West Virginia a healthier place every single day. Here's some website links, more information about the mini grants, the conference. There are also, we want to shout out to our second stage grants. For those of you who do a mini grant project this year, or have done one in the past, or have served as a presenter, you can get a team together of other Try This folks and partners and apply for up to $15,000. Those will be due in December. Those are for larger scale projects. We love, some examples are Lauren Kemp and the Wild Ramp put together a great project where she has been mentoring other farmers markets and farmers market expansions around the state. Alexis Batausa and a bunch of other folks who do running programs around the state have used a second stage grant to form the West Virginia Running Resource Network. There's a project in Wyoming County that's taken one project and spreading it all throughout the county to connect youth programming and healthy lifestyles with substance abuse prevention. So we're looking for big ideas or taking a small idea and expanding it statewide. Also, the second stage grants need to have some connection to economic development, but all the great stuff that you guys are doing is connected to economic development in some way or another. Did we mention contact us? Contact us, contact us, contact us, call us, call us, call us. Thank you so much for joining this webinar. You should be able to ask questions by going to your question tab. I'm going to start opening up the questions now and answer these as best I can. So, cool. We've got one from Jessica Copley. I'm wanting to start a Spartan Edge after-school program. This is a program that gets kids active and teaches them how to take skills they learn on an obstacle and apply them to life in general. I'm working on all the certifications. I'll be starting a 12-week family training program on June 4th of 2018. Local park charges $500 per year for use of the grounds. I'll also be putting together an obstacle course. The proceeds from the after-school program in the fall will be split with the school. I will not be able to make it to the conference. What can I do? Great question. So first off, this is a terrific program, and this is a very much a fundable project. You can see it's sustainable. She's got clear goals. The grant would be within the $500 to $3,000 range. So this is a project that could well fit. My advice, Jessica, or anyone else who's really excited about the conference but can't be there personally, is send other members of your team. So as long, again, all you need is, you don't have to be there. The person who's leading the project doesn't even need to be at the conference, but you do need to have 3 people from your team who will be at the Try This conference and can get all the information, can ask questions, can go to the mini grant session there, can learn and talk and relate to other people. So assuming, Jessica, that you've got volunteers who are helping you out, make sure they register for the conference and can make it. And if you've got any further questions, if that didn't quite answer your question, just reach out and I'd be happy to follow up with you in any way. Stephen@ourfuturewv.org. That's a great question. Let's look at the next one. Can we have a copy of the PowerPoint presentation as a reminder? So I need 2 other people from 2 other organizations. Oh, yeah, so that's just, sorry. So can we have a copy of the PowerPoint presentation as a reminder? The short answer is yes. We will get that to you or make it available online. We're also going to make the webinar available. We're recording this webinar right now. So the webinar itself will be available to you as well. So am I right in that, in saying that, Teresa?
Yes,
saying that?
both. Yes.
Both will be available online. Great question, Teresa. Thanks so much. Beth Ryan asks, so I need 2 other people from 2 other organizations working with me and my organization. What if a couple people are individuals and not part of an organization? Great question. Generally speaking, we've been okay with that. Most people, even if they're an individual, most people have something they're a part of. So maybe you have an individual who's on your team and they go to church somewhere, or they're part of, they go to work somewhere, or they're a leader in their neighborhood. As long as you make some connection, just tell us who they represent or why they're a part of your team, and that's fine. They just can't also be from your organization. So please don't use that as an opportunity to try to get around the rules and be like, well, I'm sending 3 people from my organization, but 2 of them are individuals. What we're trying to get at is that you've got a strong team of people and that they're representing different interests, different abilities, different parts of the community. So I think that you should be fine, Beth. The other thing I'd strongly recommend with a team of 3, remember, a team of 3 is only the bare minimum. And these are competitive grants. So if you come with a team of 3, that's fine, but I would encourage you to look for other partners at the Try This conference. So when you come and you're all excited and you got your team of 3, as you go to the workshops, if you're sitting with people at lunch and dinner, see if you can get a few other folks who can pitch in, and then that way you're not, by the end of the conference, you're going to have 6 or 7 people from different groups. Another thing that you can do to make your team stronger, which is totally allowed, even encouraged, is think of statewide organizations, not just local groups. I work for Healthy Kids and Families Coalition. You can ask someone on our staff to be a part of your team. There are a lot of people who come to the conference who are from WVU or Extension or Marshall or doctors or whatever. And just because they're not in your community doesn't mean they may not be able to offer you some help with your project. So be creative about adding folks to your team, even if they aren't in your community. Great question, Beth. Frank Jarman. Let's see. I don't have a full question from Frank, but Frank, it's good to hear you're on the phone. Beth asks, again, does the grant need to be applied for each year, or do you renew it somehow? Great question, and bad news, I'm afraid. These are startup grants. So what we're asking for and what we're looking for are projects that are sustainable. And one of the things you'll answer in the application is, how are you going to keep the project going? So it's appropriate to think of this as startup grants, not as something you can apply for every year. And we found that works. I know it sounds hard, but when you're talking about $1,000 or $2,000, what we find is that people are actually really good at sort of the $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 gets them started, and then they bring on enough partners and they have enough success that it's fairly easy to make the project happen year in, year out because of the momentum that they built in year one. But absolutely, it's not something we're able to fund every year. The exception to that, Beth, is that if you apply for the grant and you get it, and then next year you want to come back and expand it somehow, we have allowed that, as long as you're applying for something new that builds on what you've done before. We've done that on a few occasions. So that's the one exception to the rule, but you got to show that you're doing something really new in year two if you're going to apply again. Joy Hunt asks, I'm excited to get my partners. Alexis Pataus is going to get questions from me too. Okay, great. Thanks, Joy. Good luck going to get those that information. And thanks for your comment. Frank Jarman asks, want to start a walking program for kids, and if they walk during the summer, they can get a pair of tennis shoes to start school after summer. Is this possible to fund? Absolutely. Absolutely. Let us know how the money's going to be used. We have definitely funded projects that are sort of just getting off the ground or maybe started a month or two before our grant application. So if what you're asking is, can you get started in June and still apply in July, that's fine. I would definitely look for donations for the shoes. I'm not sure how far a couple $1,000s is going to go in buying shoes. But yeah, that sounds like a great project. I would, again, build in how you're going to make it sustainable. Okay, we are currently out of questions. I hope that means that we've answered all of them, but if it doesn't, you can always contact us. I'm going to bring up the page that has our personal email addresses. I'm going to check one more time to see if the there it is. Oh, so those of you who stuck it out, you get to see the mini grant application up close. As you can see, this is really a beautiful document. The one thing we haven't said, and is a good reminder, is that unfortunately there's not a way to stop and save your application throughout. We've tried to keep the application as pared down as possible. We've eliminated some of the questions, but heads up that you will need to try to do this in one sitting. So try to make sure you've got good internet connection when you do this. Yep. Another way you can do that for folks who haven't done online applications before is you can get all your answers in a Word doc and then copy and paste it into the SurveyMonkey as you go, so that you can do all the work ahead of time. For those of you who absolutely don't have internet access for some reason, and you need some sort of alternative paper application, we'll handle that on a case-by-case basis. So just, again, contact us if you have any questions. I'm going to check for questions one more time. Oh, we got one. Nope, we don't. Hold on. Nope, that's it. All right, thanks everybody. We can't wait to see you at the conference, June 14th and 15th. Please register as soon as possible. Excuse me, June 15th and 16th. We'll be there on the 14th. June 15th and 16th at Wesleyan. It's different this year. It's moved back a couple weeks this year to try to accommodate more people, especially teachers. Speaking of teachers, there's lots of folks who can get continuing education credits by coming to try this. All elementary school teachers can get non-degree graduate credit. Also, some middle and high school teachers can as well. If you work at a child care center, you can get continuing education credits. If you're a nurse, you can get continuing education credits. If you've got any questions about that, you know what to do. Just contact us. Dana says it would be nice to have paper copy to reference when completing the application. We think so too. And that's why we'll make one available to you at the conference. So it's a great point, Dana, and we're on the case. Another great question, does the project have to be free to participants to be funded? No. We've definitely had stuff before that had some small costs or help that could keep the project going. If you're going to charge, though, be very careful that the project is accessible. I will say that having a project be accessible is an important thing. That we've definitely funded. We've decided not to fund projects in the past because they seemed to be something that was not available to low-income people. And we are a community-based organization. We are particularly interested in making sure that everything we do is accessible to everybody in the community. So if you're going to charge, just make sure to make it really clear how that charge is still going to make it so that people can come. Would like to use the funding for scholarship or sliding scale. Yep, that's absolutely fine. So that's a great way to show. So what Dana's saying is, if you've got a project, maybe you can use some of the Try This funding to help provide scholarships or to subsidize people who wouldn't be able to afford it otherwise. That seems like a great idea, and that definitely answers the question of how do we make sure that we can say it's accessible. All right, you guys are the best. We're going to do a much shorter version of this here in a moment and put it up online, so you can look at that as well and share it. Keep an eye out for the PowerPoint and the webinar recording, which we'll put online as well. And as always, contact us if you have any questions. We really love working with you, and this is an incredible movement that you've all helped build, and can't wait to see you in a couple of months. Have a great day. Be good, be healthy. We'll talk to you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
You're still going.
Yep. Some of you are watching me stare at the screen trying to figure out how to turn this thing off. We'll figure it out. Thanks, Kayla. You'd think it'd be a little more obvious. Is that it?
And webinar.
And webinar. Bye.